Hey, what's up, everybody? Frederick Polk here. So this historical reference is going to be for you boxing fans, especially you old school boxing fans. And I'm going to talk about the George Foreman and Muhammad Ali fight in Zaire. And a little thing that Ali created called rope-a-dope. So what was rope-a-dope? Well, if you've ever seen a boxing match, the ring, basically it's got 4 posts, and then it's got ropes, 3 of them on each side. Now, George Foreman, before Ali got his title back as a world heavyweight champion, he was a bruiser. He was destroying dudes. I mean, people would try to hit him, and it wasn't doing nothing. And he would actually just throw big haymakers. And just kind of like before Mike Tyson was Mike Tyson, he would just knock him out. That was it. And so he was bigger and stronger than Muhammad Ali. But Muhammad Ali had a plan. So he'd get in there and he'd throw jabs and he'd kind of, goad Foreman. And he'd pull Foreman back. And then when he got to the ropes, he'd lean back as far as he could. And Foreman's wailing on him, and Ali's got his gloves up to protect his face. But the thing is, he was leaning so far back that Foreman's blows, they were hurting him, but they weren't knocking him out. And so Ali kept doing that. And then the thing was, though, as the rounds went on, Foreman started to get tired. He started to drop his gloves. And he started to run out of gas. And that's when Ali chose his moment to strike. And he won in the later rounds, knocking Foreman out. Because, Foreman just ran out of gas. He'd never had to go for a fight that long. And he wasn't anticipating that long of a fight with Muhammad Ali. And that's kind of what we're seeing in Russia and Ukraine, especially in Kursk. So in this video, I'm going to talk about why I think the battle that's going on in Kursk right now is a rope-a-dope by the Ukrainians. So, but Fred, didn't the president just say all this stuff today about the Russians are doing so good and blah, 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 and basically repeating, Kremlin talking points? He did. And so has kind of the Wall Street Journal and I think the New York Times. Because, let's face it, American media, they don't really do any research. They don't really hire any experts anymore. Hell, if Pearl Harbor happened today, they'd probably do some kind of clickbaity title that says, "Was the attack by enemy saboteurs?" But I digress. See, Ukraine's going through something that's called mud season right now, right? In fact, the ground around Kursk, it contributed to a major victory for the Soviets back during the World War II. That's why Kursk is so important to them. It was a tank battle that basically, it sent the Nazis into a retreat back into Germany and started the long drive for the Soviets eventually taking Berlin. And part of the reason there was this fine little dust that were all over the plains. And, it got into those Tiger tanks and messed them up. But it didn't do that to the Russian tanks. Back when they had pretty decent tanks, or they had a hell of a lot more of them. And the other thing too was basically it was real cold. And the Russian tanks stood up against that. Because part of that was they're going through what's called mud season right now, where they got about another month and a half of that. Where any kind of fighting or mechanized movement or troop movements, it's a real damn slog, literally. So but that's the reason the Russians are trying to take Kursk. It's a very symbolically important objective. Kind of something you want to take if, let's say, the war is going poorly and you needed a rallying symbol that, hey, we took this very famous site that's important to our history. It might rally support to your cause, right? Especially when, fun fact, there was a submarine, an advanced nuclear submarine named the Kursk. And it was launched early in well, Vladimir Putin's career, before he became the dictator that he is now. And there was an accident and it sunk and it killed everybody on board. So the Kursk is kind of one of those, well, it's a thing for the Russians. But, well, how's it a rope-a-dope, Fred? So here's the problem. The Ukrainians are really damn good at killing Russians. They're really damn good at with drones, probably the most advanced fighting force in the world with drone warfare now, after 3 years of doing it. And the Russians, they don't have a whole lot of reserves. And they're spending a whole lot right now trying to take and keep Kursk during mud season. And as they're taking this ground, the Ukrainians are making them pay for every inch in blood. They're destroying equipment that can't be replaced. And hell, they just announced the Ukrainians have invented their own missile that has a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. They ain't got to take much ground where it's damn near in shooting distance for Moscow. And, well, mud season's going to be over in about less than 2 months. And the Ukrainians are making them pay for Kursk. And meanwhile, they're massing their forces in other regions that are more strategically significant and less historically significant. Now, again, this is all conjecture on my part. I'm just kind of, well, forecasting, if you will, right? This is a hot take. Except in football or boxing, this is warfare. And from what I've studied in Ukraine and what I'm seeing in reports that are coming out, especially with France now flying, reconnaissance missions over Crimea and feeding that to the Ukrainians. Crimea is on the Black Sea. It's a natural logistics resupply port, for the Russian army. And, well, if you take that out on an army that's already overextended, especially if you're going to do an advance up north and cut off, the army that's at Kursk that you can then surround and starve out and basically make them a non-factor. Russia might be in a bad spot in about 2 months. All the Ukrainians got to do is hang on. Meanwhile, the Russians have to hope like hell that Donald Trump can pull out some kind of magical deal as the U.S. is, increasingly losing its foreign policy chops because we've pissed off all our alliances. I don't know. I don't know, old Daddy Trump. I don't know, Wall Street Journal. It may be a long shot according to Vegas odds, but if I was a betting man, I think I'm going to bet on old Zelensky and the Ukrainians. I think they might be getting ready to pull a trick here in about a couple months because all they got to do is hang on. And here's hoping they hang on. Keep the faith, defend democracy, and glory to Ukraine. I'll see you later.